I looked in the research,
Yes.
the education academic research. There is no competence for people below TVET. And let me just say something about children. One of the reasons why this idea sold to Kenyans is because we don't understand what learning is. And this pains me seriously. So when we are saying that we are giving kids competence-based education, we are denying them that opportunity to build their knowledge, to do the rote learning, the mundane things, the ones that build their skills, which now they will use when they are adults.
You are listening to the 414 podcast, a podcast created for such a time as this. I am Julians Amboko.
And I am Kelly Murungi. On the 414 podcast, we go behind the news headlines and bring you the real issues. We talk about how our taxes are used and what we can do to make sure that our government is working for us. We believe that an informed citizenry is key for good governance. Welcome to the second episode of our conversation with Wandia, the village madwoman, but also the greatest thinkers of our time. Dr. Wandia Njoya, welcome back.
Thank you so much.
So when we left off the last episode, we had just gotten to CBC. And you, as far as I know, were the first person to say, this, whatever you're proposing is crazy. What about CBC, raised all the red flags for you, even recognizing that the system we had was deficient in some ways, or at least the way we educate, let me not call it a system because then it triggers the need to change the system. But the way the education worked had some deficiencies. But then when we said, hey, here is competency-based curriculum, your kids will no longer have to do exams endlessly and do exam prep instead of education. There was talents, Wandia. Our children's talents were going to be identified at school and they were going to be nurtured, and our kids really were going to be the people that they were meant to be, that plays into their strengths. I mean, if I looked at that at face value as a parent, it meant I no longer have to pay for swimming after hours. I don't have to do piano at conservatoire, of music. I don't have to do art. I don't have to do the hard work of identifying my kids' talent because, again, in the capitalist market, we are told you become most successful when you tap into your talent and your passion. But you said, no, guys, this is not it. Why?
All right. There are many things, but let me just start from my position as an arts teacher.
Yes.
I had struggled so much with getting students into my classes because they were being told that, the arts are not necessary to the market. And I would hear on TV the education ministers saying, we have too many students in the arts.
Oh.
They are not, they were even saying that this is not necessary for development. They would, and then, when they're saying there are too many students in the arts, I'm thinking, but I have no one in my classes. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So when this CBC was announced, I wanted to see how did the government suddenly change its mind and decide that the arts are important. So I asked for the curriculum. I'm told it's on the website. I've told this story before. But there was a cynicism and reluctance to give us the information.
Yeah.
So I start digging around and finding out what is this. The second thing that I'll come to talent because that's a very big problem.
Yes.
But the second thing that surprised me was this idea of competence. I looked in the research, the education academic research. There is no competence for people below TVET.
Sorry?
Yes.
What does that mean?
It means that competence is about TVET. It's about vocational training.
Artisans. So basically,
artisans.
Competence. I am competent at my crocheting.
Yes.
But above?
You're not skilled.
Oh, okay.
There's a difference between competence and skill. Competence is that you have the basics. And I give I've given the example of a driver.
Yes.
When we teach people to drive, you just want them to know how to reverse, turn on the ignition, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And when they competently can drive and turn on the car, drive, accelerate, slow down, stop, park, then we say they are a competent driver.
Yeah.
But the law does not allow somebody who just learned to drive to become a M3 driver.
Yes.
Because a M3 driver has many things they are thinking about.
Yeah.
They're thinking about profit, unfortunately.
Yes.
The road, you have passengers in your car. There are split decisions you need to make.
Yes.
So it's not just simply about competence at turning on an ignition. You need to know how to maneuver and to deal with the different things that being a driver means. So the law says that if you want to be a M3 driver, you have to have 4 years driving experience.
Yeah.
And you must be, I think they say you must be at least 24 years of age.
Oh, so you must be skilled.
You must be skilled and mature and knowledgeable. Competent. So now when they're saying we just want competence, what they're saying is that we want the bare minimum
from our kids.
From our kids. So even to say about talent, you see now there was a disconnect, because how do you care about a child's talent when all you want is for them to have the bare minimum, to be competent? So that already now coming to talent is the problem, because even talent is the same relationship. Talent and arts are not the same thing.
Yeah.
Talent is what you're born with. Art is a skill. It's the work that you do. It's that you learn your craft. You get to know artwork from other people, and you become better and better until you develop your own style. That's what arts is. It's not talent.
Yeah.
So the words talent and competence are about bare minimum.
Yeah.
You're not expecting much from a child, and you're just like, wherever you come from, we'll just do with what you have, and we won't bother to. We won't improve on what you are, or we won't make it better.
Yeah.
So, but it took me a long time. You see, I'm telling you the summary.
Yes.
But it took me over a year to understand what was going on, because when I would ask, okay, in the research, I'm seeing competencies for TVET.
Yes.
How do you explain that we are doing competence at primary school?
Yes.
Then I get gaslighted. I'm told, oh, you're already against the system. And
you have the wrong attitude.
I have the wrong attitude. Let's just implement before it, that kind of thing. So it took me a very long time to put 2 and 2 together and say, I think what we are being told competence is not competence. Competence is vocational training.
Yes.
And it's not for children.
Yes.
And let me just say something about children. One of the reasons why this idea sold to Kenyans is because we don't understand what learning is. And this pains me seriously, because, how can we not know what learning is? But children, first of all, their limbs and their arms and their eyes and their muscles, they're not completely developed.
Yes.
So when they're coming to school, they're also growing up.
Yeah.
They're growing up, and you're teaching them 1 + 1 is 2.
Yes.
Because now when they go to TVET and you're telling them calculate the distance from this thing, like they're making a chair. How do I calculate the difference between this arm of the chair and this arm of the chair? You don't want to be teaching them what 1 + 1 is.
Correct.
That should have been taught in the primary school.
Correct.
So what I was saying is you need to give children the basic skills in reading, writing, thinking, creativity, those things, so that now when they come to the TVET that you want them to go to, now you even if it's competence that you want, clearly, you're not teaching them the basics.
Yeah.
Basics have to be taught in the school system, because children do not know them. Children don't know what 1 + 1 is. I'm sorry, it's a form of rote learning. You can't avoid rote.
No, of course, you can't.
You can't avoid rote learning.
Even parenting, like teaching a toddler
Yes.
things. It's rote. It's
Exactly.
some things you build into the routine and they get embedded.
Yes.
We can't. I don't know why. By the way, now maybe another day we'll talk about. I don't know why rote learning, like
is hated so much.
memorization, etc. How else do you learn things?
And like now that I'm older, a lot of things I remember is because I memorized them when I was young. So I think we confuse exams with rote learning, and rote learning is important, but exams is cramming, and which is
those
completely different.
Those are not the same things.
Yeah,
it's that I internalize multiplication table so that then I don't have to always calculate and waste time.
Exactly.
Every time I have to do 6 times 7, 6 times 4, times 5, times 6. That is necessary even to create brain space to think about other things.
Yeah. So when we are saying that we are giving kids competence-based education, we are denying them that opportunity to build their knowledge, to do the rote learning, the mundane things, the ones that build their skills, which now they will use when they are adults.
One day you keep saying, once we get to the TVET, they want us to go to. Wait, we're not, I'm not, like, what? What is this? What are we saying here? I know what you're avoiding to say is what we said at the last episode, that the next point of differentiator, because now all these village kids were making it to the city, and we are now in corporate spaces where we're not even supposed to be, is we were to then fix that.
Yeah.
By stratifying and creating one class that gets to go to university and gets philosophical education, and then another class that serves that class.
Yeah.
Talk a bit more about that and how CBC then plays into that.
So CBC now is telling people that talent thing, obviously. So children from poorly equipped schools, now you can say, oh no, the problem isn't the equipment, the problem is talent.
There's no talent.
You're not talented, and that's why you didn't well. So we're basically divorcing ourselves from our commitment to give quality education to all children, regardless where they come from.
Yeah.
And then now, when you've said these kids are not talented, when they don't do well, now you say go to TVET. So the basic idea, and it's even in the curriculum framework, the basic idea is that 60% of Kenyan children will go into TVET. And then the others will be distributed between the professions, the arts, the sciences. I even asked them, there was a point I asked 60%. Them, how did you even calculate these?
Yeah, how do you get that ratio?
These pathways that children will go to, but you're still telling us about talent. You see, these are the things Kenyans were not understanding. If you're saying we're going to go with a child's talent, how can there be a pathway?
And also talent is rare, right? Like, we don't usually have countries where 60% are artists.
Yeah.
So there's no statistics even that we can use to build that framework.
And even the way they were having these rigid boundaries, like I gave the example of a sound engineer can be a musician and a scientist because they have to understand sound waves. How do I mic the place? How does sound travel and all that?
Yeah.
But they're also artists because they want to hear the aesthetics.
Yeah.
After I engineer the sound, does it sound good?
Yes,
so you have to have an aesthetic also. So I was saying, why are you separating the arts and the sciences? So what if somebody wants to do mathematics and music? Why not?
But why not? Why not?
Yeah, why not? And who knows what can come out of that?
Why can't a doctor do literature? I mean, some of the most wonderful writers we have. I mean, there was Yusuf Dawood. The late Yusuf Dawood.
Exactly.
He was a doctor, but he wrote beautifully.
Yeah.
So why are we saying you can either be talented or, I don't even know what to call, you can either be straight. You're a mathematics, sciences person. You can't.
Yeah, but it's part of the hierarchy. You want to say, you people are scientists, so you're higher. The artists are lower, and then the technicians are the lowest.
Yeah,
so it's still a hierarchy that we are thinking about. So that's what made me, I was so angry because a lot of the justifications were lies. They were lies. It's not true. that you can educate only on talent. People
Yeah.
have to have skills.
Yeah.
Competence is not for children, it's for adults.
Adults, yes.
Yeah, it's for adults to learn specific skills.
Yeah.
So, but unfortunately, because Kenyans couldn't tell the difference between these things, then when they were told, yeah, there'll be no exams, then Kenyans said, wow, no exams. But now what we have is assessments. It's the same thing. And I mean, what was amazing
What's
to
an
me,
assessment even?
it's the same thing.
It's, let's see if the child because they don't seem to do exams, first of all, but they seem to be doing, like, they have this silly portfolios. I'm sorry to call them silly, but it's a collection of work the child has done. But really, it's a parent's. Because there was, now you'll get into this parental involvement. This is something also Kenyans loved when they had parental involvement. When why were parents excited at legislated parental involvement? Because CBC, that portfolio, countrywide, is the work of parents. Parents get homework. Why was this exciting that now parental involvement will be required?
It's the evangelical propaganda of the 90s.
Yeah.
You see, there was a propaganda in the 90s about, the problem with children is that they are not raised properly. They have not come from a stable home.
Yes.
Parents need to be involved in their learning and what. So when that idea comes back in 2016, people love it. And they didn't see a problem. You see, the way ideas work, you first suggest it very, you give it in small doses.
Yeah.
So even from the Christian perspective, it was a very wrong idea because they were blaming social problems on parents. Yeah. And in fact, actually, it came, if we even go further, where that idea came from, it was a backlash against the civil rights movement.
Yes, correct.
So when Black communities are doing badly, then evangelicals can say, there's a higher incarceration rates because these people are raised by single moms.
I mean, it's still there today.
It's still there.
It's still being cited. So, we have, manhood programs that cite those statistics. And with no nuance.
And even CBC, they were bashing, even Black men are getting bashed these days. But so CBC, they were saying, the problem with kids is that their fathers don't do their homework. I'm like...
fathers are absent.
Yeah. That kind of nonsense. So I think, you see, Kenyans didn't realize that was rhetoric from a different area. It was on morality, religion, what. So when it's sucked into the education system, people can't tell the difference. So that's why they liked it.
And I mean, we are predominantly Christian. And so on Sunday, all we are talking about is, we are losing our children because, of single mothers.
Yeah.
And because fathers, I don't know, are doing what. But we are not really discussing why they are single mothers.
Yeah.
But also, what is wrong with single mothers? What support should be given?
Mary, the mother of Jesus, was a single mother.
Yeah. She was a single mother. So the socialization, the socialization has been very deliberate. Don't look at the systemic failures.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was reading a book about, speaking up to the American context, saying that the nuclear family has been used by the political system to excuse systemic failures.
Yeah.
Because then if we don't blame people for not raising children in two-parent homes, we will have to fix the fact that actually we are not giving our children and our families any support.
Yes.
So it's that women get married and stay married. Otherwise, if you leave, it's your fault then. I mean, why didn't you just stay
you're
married?
traumatizing your child as if
if
a bad marriage doesn't already traumatize
them enough. And when we look at Black families, I mean, whether even in Africa, we have the South African problem where you took these men away from their families. You took them away. And instead of addressing that and addressing the restoration and saying that, and I kind of like the Scandinavian system for this, saying that no matter where the child is born, they are deserving of a life of dignity, which is what a working social contract
even
should be.
Our extended families, that was the principle. It was to say, not everybody is going to have a stable family. So cousins, aunties, grandmothers were there to surround the child.
And
The village.
The village. And I always saying that if you take it even many, many generations back, the context, the idea of a mother, father, and a child did not exist in African communities. Children were born into a community and they were raised by the community.
Yeah.
So whenever an African comes, and I'm a single mother, very confident and unashamed and happy, I'm like, wait, but this family you're telling me is the good one is not African.
Yeah.
It's not even good for the child. It's not good for the parents. They are overworked.
Yes.
So we need to think back. And now I've even gone off topic, but I was listening to a podcast on Kikuyu culture, and it was talking about single motherhood. And they were saying that actually, if you are marrying, first of all, if a girl got pregnant, the man was penalized because he was supposed to be the one who has self-control. And then secondly, so the woman comes home. Of course, the child is named after the woman's mother, father. And so as a man, if I come and I want to marry the woman, I give more bride price because this woman has more value. They have a child. But the gist of that conversation was this shame, failure, etc.
Yeah, it's a Western
It's
thing.
an individualization of something that should be societal.
Yeah.
It's a very Western, evangelical, I think.
Yeah.
Evangelical thing, right? And capitalistic thing. Because again, if we make family take responsibility for social failures, it means then we can industrialize.
Yeah.
And we can make, the corporate that has no responsibility. But anyway, back to CBC. So parents get excited about the idea that talent will be developed, competency, no exams.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I wanted you to speak to is, was this by design? Because what I've noticed is then the elite private primary schools, 844 schools, have now also evolved to be combo schools where you have an 844 stream and then you have a Cambridge stream.
Yeah.
Was that by design? What had the CBC people thought about that? Because what I'm seeing, Wandia, here is we're saying that if you have a bit more money, you can actually even move above the elite of being in a private CBC school. You can now be in a private Cambridge school.
Yeah.
Is that by design? Or is it just...
I'm not sure about that. I think what happened, because CBC was so unstable and so unclear, these schools decided let's market to the parent. I mean, if we do only CBC and the parents are not happy with CBC, they'll leave. So I think that's why they provided the second stream. I don't think it was thought, at least I didn't get the sense that that was the plan. But the plan was to privatize the school system. That one I saw because just when CBC was being introduced, we start getting these high-cost, expensive schools being built in different places.
Yes.
So I think, and I'm talking about the really high-cost ones, not the
ones you wonder who pays, who affords this.
Yeah. And I think these businesses, because it's businesses that are buying these schools or building these schools, they are looking at elites.
Yes.
And elites not just of Kenya, but elites of the rest of the region.
Yeah.
So they want the elites, the diplomats, and to have all their kids in these very expensive posh schools. And like I said, the idea is when these kids graduate, they come back and rule the country because they went through all the same system.
So they have that kinship.
They have a kinship.
So where before it was Alliance, then Harvard, Oxford.
Yeah.
Now it is ex-Cambridge school in Kenya, Oxford,
Harvard. Yeah.
And of course, there is the understanding and in the Kenyan society that in Cambridge they're learning.
Yes.
And in Kenyan system, whichever it would be, they're being drilled.
Yeah.
They're not learning.
Yeah.
And so it's a consequence. It was almost what do I call it? An unintended consequence.
Yeah.
And I mean, what makes me sad, Wandia, is what I've heard is those schools actually are two different schools where we have that. The rules, kids the uniform, it's very different across the river. How have you not heard about this?
I mean, I don't want
to mention names, but once the mics are off, I will tell you.
I knew about it, but now when you're describing it, yes.
No, yeah.
But now when you describe it, I've realized, it's apartheid.
It's education apartheid. It's literally some of them, it's a river, and then across the river, we have the elites, where the rules are different. the uniform. Sometimes
dear.
you'll find the 844 side, girls wear dresses and skirts. That side, pants are allowed. You know, and a school I had, even the diet is different because parents are paying more. I'm sorry. As a Kenyan parent, if I pay more, my kid has to eat better food. Why does it matter that across the road? See walipe, see they pay. One day. This is
I hadn't thought
Yeah.
logistically what it
logistically
means.
think about it.
But now, that
If the
that makes
private
sense.
Kenyan system school is 100,000, right, per term, and I want to have a Cambridge stream that I can charge 250,000, how do I make parents pay for that?
You have to give them these perks.
Mhm.
We're going to have a war.
There's a class war coming
There's a class war
that we are not
coming.
ready for.
Yeah. That one.
And literally it is you're buying this. And so as a parent,
And you see, the thing is, elite, from my sense, elite education is not better.
no, it's not.
It's not better.
No, it's
You're just
not.
getting these perks and these new, what you're saying, the uniforms, the food, what. But in terms of the actual content,
It's not any better.
it's not any better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's nothing that we can't. I think there is a thinking, and I bring it back to our last episode about how radically different life as a national school student was versus someone in a provincial school. There is an element of devaluing. It's almost like a plane, right? If you don't devalue the economy people, the first class people won't feel special.
Yes.
So I would see it as, for example, all other schools had to have a very humiliating schooling experience.
Yes. Yeah.
It was not necessary. It was
No, it
by
wasn't.
design, so
Yeah.
that then the elite schools feel special. Because when you look at even the way Cambridge schools educate, there's no reason. It's a very, I want to say, because I've experienced it as a parent, it's a very relaxed exchange of information.
Yeah.
The teacher is not to be feared, you know. The school, the school council, for example, will challenge the school, why can't we change this rule? It's a very almost democratic. And I ask myself, why can't a Kenyan system school be like this?
There's no
nothing.
reason.
But then it has to be like that to create a market for
Yes.
this other side.
Yeah. Yeah. You
There's
degrade
no-
one
yeah.
to value the other.
I've had kids transition from Kenyan system to Cambridge, and they're like, oh my God, why is that like that? But it's colonial, it's by design.
Yeah.
Because a teacher is a teacher. So why is it that when they're with 844, they are these authoritarian, rules-oriented, and then you place them in a Cambridge school, and now it is, we are almost peers, we're exchanging information. I don't know.
Because it's built into the state, the Kenyan state, that it has to be colonial, it has to use power and
Yeah.
violence.
Yeah.
It has to make you subservient. So it comes with the territory.
And as you say that, then it means you can't then protest as an adult.
Yeah, exactly.
Protest makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because you've never pushed back. So,
Yeah.
Oh my
You learn to
God.
accept the system as it
my
is.
God.
You're told provide a solution or keep quiet. That kind of thing.
Huh.
And actually, if you even look at the way we teach, especially if you're in the social sciences, they teach problem solution.
Yes, impact.
Impact,
That every topic.
challenges facing.
Yes.
What are those other things? I really hate those topics.
What are the challenges facing this? Then you list. And
Factors
then
affecting.
Factors affecting, yes. And then
Role of.
Yes, the role of every master's
Yeah.
thesis is the impact of X on X.
Yeah. Yeah, we are taught to think like that so that when you come out of the system, you look at life in terms of what should the government do and how can it be solved. That's how you think. Yeah.
That's why we are quick to ask.
So when
what
you
is
start,
the solution?
yeah, and when you start saying, but first let's understand the history of it,
Yeah.
the reason for it, then people say, oh no, that's irrelevant. We don't need to talk about that. So we are programmed to think in a certain way as Kenyans. Yeah.
Interesting. And so that's why, of course, in the classroom, then we cannot just have discussions.
Yeah.
We will write notes.
Yeah, we'll write notes and reproduce them.
Interesting. So we are not being taught to think.
We're not being allowed
to
to
think.
think. I always give this example, and I pity the student who did this. But
Yeah.
to me, it was so fascinating. I had a student who presented, those copy-pasted papers
Yeah.
on irrigation in Makueni County. Our university doesn't offer engineering or
Yeah.
agricultural engineering.
Yeah.
And obviously the paper didn't sound very clever. So
Yeah.
I ask him, now after I read it, I say, so why are you giving me a paper like this? How are you related to Makueni? He said, I was a biomed student at the level 5 hospital. And I noticed that many people coming in were suffering from malnutrition. So I said, and where is irrigation coming in
Yeah.
this paper? He says, irrigation is how to solve the malnutrition problem. So I said, okay, where do people get their food source from?
Yes.
In the area? He didn't know. He didn't even understand what I was asking.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, because if you're saying there was malnutrition, but you lived there for 5 months,
Yes.
you didn't take any interest in where the food source is from, what do people eat?
Yeah.
Even when they go to the market, where is this food coming from?
Yes.
Had no clue.
Yeah.
Then I say, okay, you want there to be irrigation. What are the water sources? Had no clue.
Oh.
So basically what he did was to see a problem and a solution, but he didn't see the people facing the problem.
The people, yeah.
He couldn't see them.
Wow.
That's how our education
That's how
system is.
yeah.
It teaches us to unsee ourselves. Yeah. So we think in abstracts of problem, solution, problem, solution. Then when you start saying, which was what I was saying about CBC, think of what does it mean for the child in the village whose parent is not educated?
Yes.
What does this parental involvement mean?
Yeah.
Then
and the many kids being raised by grandmas and
grandpas, orphans,
the one I asked online then, I was on Twitter, quite active then on Twitter, was we all have domestic workers. So who is parental involving their kids, while they're working in our homes?
Exactly.
So as we are promoting this system, what are we saying? But I want to ask one day, what is it that makes us so uncomfortable thinking and understanding a problem? Like why are we uncomfortable in that seat? We want to move quickly along. And how does that affect us as a people?
There's a lot of violence I've realized in the school system. If you try to think beyond what is in the syllabus, you're beaten by the teacher, you're called mjuaji, you're told you're rude. It's not coming in the exam. Exams are a form of violence.
Yes.
It's a way of regulating what people learn.
Yeah.
So within the school, there's a lot of violence.
Yeah.
And children who have minds of their own are constantly punished.
Yes.
So they start to realize, oh, I'm not supposed to think. And then there's violence outside of the school.
Yeah.
In terms of, if you ask questions, as we've seen with the Gen Z's protest, if you ask questions, you're abducted, you're gaslighted. There's a lot of gaslighting in Kenya, more than I had appreciated. There's a very heavy propaganda about thinking being useless.
Yes.
And not relevant to whatever.
It doesn't solve anything.
Yeah. And you even see it in government documents, like the sessional paper of 1965. There's a line in the foreword by Jomo Kenyatta where he says, let's stop debating and theorizing about our society. We don't need to talk. Let's get on with development. Time for debates is over.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No way.
Yes, he says it in in the
Crazy,
preface.
huh?
And there's a historian who says that actually persecutions of intellectuals started after that.
Yes.
That if you start saying, okay, we are a young country, what can we do differently then?
Let's imagine our country.
Let's imagine something else you're putting you're
And
put
we
in
see it now.
detention.
We see it now, where if you speak now, I mean, you don't even need to be outside protesting with a placard.
Yeah, now you're traced with your phone and
if you
abducted.
shoot a video
Yes.
that provokes people to think, then you're abducted.
Yeah. So there's a
Interesting.
lot of violence in Kenya that is very subtle that we don't see.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of violence against thinking. So now when people have decided, okay, I'm just going to keep my head down and do what is expected of me, now you start telling them, please think about CBC. Hey, guys don't have time.
Yeah, it's
too much work. It's
Yeah.
traumatic.
Yeah.
I remember somebody reaching out to me in my DM. I really felt so sad. He told me, yeah, you know what you're saying about the violence of the school system? These days, because of how much I was beaten in my mathematics class, I still get traumatized when I'm dealing with the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still remember that. So there's a lot of violence in our school system. And,
There is.
And so people don't want to think. They don't want to think about education.
And there is, and because we were beaten when we dissented or questioned, there is often also first an instinct to do the same, to beat down on people who are saying things that we don't like, you know. But also second, once we are confronted with questions, we say we are being attacked.
Yes. Yeah. It
triggers almost, and it gets very emotional, you know. You will be discussing ideas and it becomes very personal because, as you rightly say, it's almost like there's trauma in people. And so you see, even now, for people who are provocative, you almost have to be careful the context in which you're provoking, because Allah, it could get quite emotional.
Yeah.
And I mean, I see that. But then one day, in the last episode, you said we must take back education, and it starts with us. It's not even the kids.
Yeah.
We have to start educating ourselves and each other.
Yes.
And I always say in this podcast, I like to come out with what can the citizens do, you know. I remember Chomsky in, I think it's How the World Works. He talks about, it's a very sad book to read. And at the end, one of the interviewers says, okay, you said everything is for the capitalist, it's for the business. This system is not for us. Elections are not for us. So what can we do? And Chomsky, because there's a powerlessness when you realize how the world works. And Chomsky says that find one thing that you care about and organize around it.
Yeah.
So it's the same spirit now in this context of educating ourselves. What do you think we can do? What can I do, you know? What can people in their little communities do, you know, beyond Bible study?
They need studies.
Yeah.
The way you do for Bible study, do for Walter Rodney's book. Meet
Book
and
clubs.
Read. Book clubs.
Yeah.
Meet and read.
Yeah.
And with the internet, people have no excuse. I mean, there's a video of Walter Rodney giving a speech. So if you want a sort of like an easy introduction to his book, you can look for people talking about him and all that.
Yeah.
People need to expand their minds. I think that one is essential. And it's the adults I'm talking about, not the children.
Yes.
The adults in Kenya need to expand their minds. There's no way around it.
Yeah.
They have to start reading beyond their careers and beyond our politics, which our politics is very stupid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's too much drama and theater that is very emotional. So you're getting very angry or very sad.
Yeah.
So people need to read more.
Yeah.
Discuss in groups what you're reading. Be deliberate about expanding your mind. And then for the children, just give them stories. Stories and work. I mean, make them make things with their hands. And it can be anything.
Yeah.
But also tell them stories.
Yeah.
Our children need to know who we are.
Yeah.
They need to go to their grandmothers.
Yes.
And say, Shosho, what were you doing when you were my age?
Yes.
How did you meet Guka? Did you people go on dates? That level of history,
yes,
the children need to learn it, but also to do the usual folk tales, puppets, because the point is to expand the mind, to be imaginative, and to be able to be creative.
Yeah.
Because that's what the education system is fighting
Yes.
at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And also to learn to connect stories.
Yes.
Connect the dots,
Yeah.
sorry. Because what stories do is that they teach us to see the connections between different things.
Mm-hmm.
So since you can't give a lecture to your kid, you give them a story.
Yes.
And they learn the skill of seeing there's a connection between the river and the frog and the fish
Yes.
and the what. And when they keep hearing stories about the folk tales about their grandparents, then they start to see, oh, this is connected to this, is connected to this. So imagine, for me, that's the thing that we need to do, because these systems survive on our disconnection and our compartmentalization. When our minds are in pieces and we are not seeing the different relationships, then that's how the systems
survive.
That's how they survive.
Yeah.
So to beat that, stories. People have to tell stories. They have to expand their minds. I think that, and talk.
We have to read and talk to each other.
And talk to
beyond
each other.
siasa, because siasa is
Yes.
all consuming. The Kenyan political scene is all consuming.
It's
So
like a battery. I don't know if you feel.
No, I don't watch news because I
Even
said I don't have
don't.
enough emotion for whatever.
For that.
So I
It's
get it. It's draining and it blocks your mind.
Yes.
Then you can't think beyond that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Wandia. You said we need to come together. We need to read together, watch videos together, discuss. And then we need to tell our children stories.
Yes.
And get them doing things.
Yes.
School shouldn't teach your child how to fry an egg.
No.
Take a video frying an egg. That is something we are doing together as we are telling those stories.
Yes.
I like that as the conclusion of these 2 episodes, Dr. Wandia. Thank you so much. I am so grateful. I feel like you've poured into me personally. And I'm hoping that, whoever is watching or will listen to this also will feel the same way. That we must understand the context of things. But at the same time, we must not lose that. Talking to each other, telling each other stories, and learning from each other. Thank you for your time. And I wish you all the best in everything that you do. And hopefully, we can come back again as we watch the way this system evolves, basically beyond the education. Yeah, is there any closing words you have for us?
No, I just want to say thank you very much. Yeah, this is an honor, and I'm so happy that I get to talk about education and I'm glad to see that there are ordinary Kenyans who are now starting to say, yeah, what is this about?
Yeah.
That's important.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you for watching or listening. This is the 414 podcast. We were created for such a time as this. We believe, that an informed citizenry is critical for good governance and that we need to grow, as a people. And that's why we're having these conversations. As usual, if you like the content, share. But as Dr. Wandia has told us, discuss with each other and look for other material that build on the learnings that you get from this. The 414 podcast is non-commercial. We don't make money out of this. And we appreciate your support. Our email address is the414pod@gmail.com. And in the show notes, I will share with you Dr. Wandia's socials. She's active on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And any other material that has been discussed in the podcast. Until next time, keep safe. Thank you.